Hey guys, what is up? It's Dusty here and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto News. And I'd say today is a pretty exciting day for crypto for a couple of different reasons. Some are funny, some are definitely not that funny, and we're of course going to cover all of them. Then again, right now the crypto space is in a neutral position, with Bitcoin at $23.5 thousand, Ethereum at $16.5 thousand, and XRP at 38.2 cents. Really not that much going on in the entire top 10. Of course, a couple of different cryptos like Singularity Net and IMX are pumping in the double digits with plus 18 and plus 16%, and a couple of coins are down slightly. SSV, never heard of it before, but it's down roughly 10.5%. And XEM or NEM is down 6.4. Conflux down 6.4. Not too bad of a day, but of course there are some losers. Anyway, today has been a day filled with some scary questions. And a lot of it has to do with BUSD. So for all of you that do not know, there have been a couple of hints and scary moments regarding crypto, which mostly relate right now to stable coins. And that's all because of this big inquisition after BUSD, it seems. Anyway, Binance USD stablecoin gets booted off Coinbase amid mounting regulatory pressure. So I just actually come off about 15 minutes ago a call with Binance for them to clarify the situation and whether or not we should be scared. Now, I can't go over the details as to what they're planning to do next, as some of these things have not been confirmed, but they basically explained the situation with Coinbase taking it off and the fact that everything is backed one-to-one, so there isn't really any risk in quote-unquote keeping it. It's just kind of annoying. And again, whether or not this is going to be bullish or bearish for BNB kind of depends, because still a lot of it, BUSD, is going to be used for the next couple of months. And at a certain point, USDT on the Binance Smart Chain is still going to be used a lot and is still quite useful. So it's not as if that's going to affect a lot of network activity on the Binance Smart Chain. The only thing I'm thinking of is the trading pair, which in one sense is bullish for BNB, because now, with BUSD, you didn't really have high fees on Binance, right? Since it's going to be taken off, you need to transact in other pairs, which means the more BNB you have, the more discount you have on Binance, which kind of evens itself out because, of course, there's less activity with BUSD, which is by definition bearish for Binance, definition bearish for BNB. But it kind of evens itself out. Just wanted to give you guys the update that it's taken off of Coinbase. Another bad thing, which is debatably bad, but anyway, is Visa and Mastercard are halting their crypto partnerships. That's exactly what is ongoing right now. Most of it is coming after all this scrutiny from FTX and Three Arrows Capital, Luna, etc. But I'd say again that a lot of it has to do with what we've seen with these stablecoin situations. They're just trying to take their hands off for right now, but they'll most likely come back harder than ever. What I mean with that is, don't let this title fool you into thinking that Mastercard and Visa are, getting out of the crypto space altogether. No, they probably had a couple of partnerships lined up that they're right now delaying, but I think that's just a PR move, right? They are still exploring payments in USDC, and Visa targeting, this is actually not specifically USDC, it's USD coin. And I believe the USDC stands for USD Circle, right? But I could be wrong on that. And Visa targeting stablecoin settlements weeks before today's developments. They just said they're going to be pushing back the launch for certain products and services until market conditions and regulations warm up a bit. Now, the best thing I have to say for that is we've seen now that they're talking a lot about crypto on the regulatory front in circles like, for example, the group of 20, G20, which is really bullish if you start thinking about it. The fact that they're talking about it and they're feeling such a threat about it in such circles, it's giving me those China vibes where the moment that they ban it or they do something against it, it's bad. But I think eventually they'll all come back on their words. And so the fact they're acknowledging it and seeing it as such a big problem is giving me these bullish vibes. And again, the fact that we're seeing Visa and MasterCard now step back a little bit, most likely, in my opinion, just means right now is going to be a regulation wave of just a couple of slaps in the face that will ultimately end up with a more bullish end result for crypto, even though the short term might not be that amazing. But very often, these guys backing down might be because they know something we don't. But the fact that they're both doing it kind of suggests that. Even though that's happening, it might just literally be a case of, hey, we've seen some bad news and we're afraid, let's take a step back. Again, look at this. 2 hours ago, Robinhood received a SEC subpoena following the FTX collapse. So apparently they're right now going after Robinhood as well for being involved with the cryptocurrency space. And I understand that after FTX had some trouble, Sam Bankman-Fried was invested in Robinhood. They also want to take a little bit of a look at everything that's going on at Robinhood in regards to crypto. I understand that. Obviously, that's not too bullish for the crypto space, but you have to understand that FTX US, the US subsidiary, was also not really in a bad position or so. And by the way, the lighting might not be too amazing. Right now, we're in South Africa. Little fun fact. Anyway, the whole FTX US situation was not too bad. With Robinhood, the same. It's not as if there's really big issues in the back end because it's in the US, so it's all already properly looked at. The whole question just here is, what is it to do with securities and everything in that regard? And how exactly does it work with lending potentially? It's only now become public. It's one of many efforts of the US regulators to go after these guys, but apparently they already got one of these letters in December, so they've already been investigating it for a little bit. And so I think it's all going to be fine. I'm not too afraid of all of this. What I'm more thinking of is what exactly was going on at FTX in the back end of things. Because I mean, I keep seeing these titles. Former FTX engineering chief pleads guilty to 6 US fraud conspiracy charges. I keep thinking, damn, were we getting this heavily bamboozled? Anyway, to move on, I saw this article and it got me thinking, Ripple will definitely lose against the SEC, a crypto executive says. Now, first of all, whenever I see that, I just sit and laugh because anybody that's in crypto that's so adamantly or desperately rooting against Ripple or being so negative about it, I don't think understands the consequences of just how important the Ripple case will be and how high of a chance they have to win in certain departments that matter. Because again, if we're defining Ripple losing by them needing to pay something or them being in any trouble at all, then I might have to agree because there's an option for any of those things that I think is highly likely. If we're defining it as Ripple loses, meaning XRP is completely banned outright, completely garbage in the eyes of the SEC, every transaction ever made regarding XRP is just plain fraud or something, like a full designation to the depths of the deepest ocean. No, okay, that I'm going to have to disagree with. And reading a little bit of what the Mr. Chia says, his point is pretty interestingly, in my own opinion, stupid. XRP is not a security. We're going to register Chia equity, which is the obvious way to be legal that everyone else just doesn't want to do. Now, point that I have to, this is not XRP. He's, of course, talking about his own token, XCH. The point that I want to quickly make clear is if what he says is, no, let me rephrase that. What he says is easier said than done or funny. But, we're going to just register it as equity. The whole point is that it just doesn't really work, right? For example, you would think so, but it didn't stop the SEC from going after Ripple. And he said, well, they sold XRP before they registered Ripple stock, and that was the mistake. And again, I want to quickly make people understand that very often when we read these discussions, people are just either ignorant or they just don't understand the severity of what's being charged by the SEC. A good point here is the SEC is not just charging, Ripple sold XRP. They couldn't have done that without the proper registering. If that was the only case, well, obviously Ethereum would be a security too. And like we're seeing right here, Gary Gensler keeps confirming that probably every other crypto out there is a security except for Bitcoin. But if that was the case, it would be understandable a little bit. The problem comes in the fact that it's every single ever sale. Meaning if you transacted XRP with your friend, that's a security transaction, meaning XRP itself is the security. And when you start thinking about it, going back to the definition of this security thing, it just doesn't make sense, which is why people are like, well, get Gary Gensler off of here. Ripple, calls for recusal of Gary Gensler from crypto cases. Here's why. It just doesn't fit. It just doesn't fit by definition of what the SEC should do. They should take their ass off to the securities. And he keeps trying, Gary Gensler that is, trying to take over this section where he just, by definition, does not belong. And we keep seeing that with different things the SEC attempts to do. But even people like, I believe Hester Pierce, but it might be one of those other guys, keep saying like, hey, why are you overstaying your welcome with just trying to fill every little gap that you can see when you're clearly not wanted and you don't belong? It sounds kind of like I'm trying to say, hey, you don't belong here. But I literally mean it in a way of they just don't belong. Yeah, I mean, how difficult can that be to understand for, for the, you know what? I should actually quickly intervene here myself. There's a couple things you should understand here. Whenever I'm talking about Gary Gensler, I think he doesn't belong. It's partially because from his recent comments and from all of his comments, you can see he knows about the industry. I can't say he does not understand crypto at all. He's in our view doing it for either two reasons. One, political, he's trying to get higher up on the rankings, or two, he's just old and doesn't like it, period. Because if you look back at a couple of different cases and you really can dive deep, you just notice there's a lot of hatred. And especially the SEC's entire section, not just Mr. Gensler, but they've made a lot of errors. And a lot of these errors come from the fact that they're just prejudiced. And you can read about it here a little bit. I don't want to go too deep into specific cases. Just this little section right here. For example, the SEC initiated proceedings to permanently bar a stockbroker from all employment in the securities field. However, later finding out that even during the fact that it was pending, the whole proceeding, the commissioner already called the ban permanent, even though it was not really decided. It's just like, what? So the court found that the commissioner's comments about the permanent ban on the stockbroker's employment while the case was pending showed the commissioner had prejudice, or basically prejudged the issue, which makes no sense, Due process, which the same thing should apply to crypto. It's not wrong until proven wrong, or if the rules are clear, in the sense that they then at that point, overruled. I mean, if you're stealing something from the store, you did something wrong. We all know exactly the rules for that, right? In this case here, if you're doing something like walking in a certain place where you really can't see any sign, and you don't know if it's like roadway or private property, you just can't figure it out. It's like, well, the rule is quite clear, but it's just, in the back end, because maybe it doesn't apply here because you're in freaking, Antarctica, pick a place, right? You're on the moon, so there's not really the proper rules set in place. You don't know if you can walk there or not. It just gets a lot more difficult. And then if all of a sudden you're walking on the moon and your little third grade teacher wants to come back and school you on exactly what you should do, but she doesn't belong, in those rule sets, I don't know exactly what type of analogy or story I'm trying to put right here. The point here being, they don't really belong here. They might be too prejudiced and they might be too power hungry to just rule over it all when, again, it is not their place, it seems. So it's like this little nosy-ass kid that keeps wanting to say, oh, what is that about? Oh, what is that? Back off, all right? Back off, not your issue. Doesn't concern you. Get back into your corner. And that's kind of what we have to do against the SEC, it just seems. Anyway, Cardano reigns supreme. I'm a big Cardano fan. I've seen a lot of Cardano haters in the comments section whenever I make a video about it. But Cardano apparently reigns supreme as most actively developed crypto asset. Is ADA's moon landing guaranteed? I also saw a little piece that actually said Arbitrum is taking over Ethereum. Little fun fact. And right now I'm seeing that Cardano is being worked on the most in terms of all these other networks. Just some cool stuff I wanted to mention. ICP is also pretty undervalued for how good they actually are. Again, they had a very strange start. It was a lot of excitement, then a lot of dumpy dump. It was not good, but it's just interesting to understand. Even though GitHub commits and daily activity here doesn't necessarily matter a lot because it could all be garbage in theory, right? It's still cool to see that ADA is so high up on the chain. And again, we all know it. Cardano is doing a lot for themselves. They keep pushing through. They keep making deadline after deadline in the sense of that they have put themselves a very good roadmap ahead, and they keep, okay, let me rephrase that. With Cardano, you just know the progress is being made. And with a lot of other chains, you understand that they're progressing, but you don't really fully understand the next steps because potentially they're trying to do something completely revolutionary, completely new. You understand. With Cardano, it's like, we know the vision, we know the road, we know they keep doing research on the side, but you keep seeing the progress that they're trying to make in due course. You see it in time, and they keep making that step further piece by piece, which is making Cardano so freaking strong. Anyway, Cardano is a pretty nice project, and it just keeps doing well. And that's exactly what we're with Cardano for. The limitless potential because of the research that they do in the back end, but mostly just taking their time, but doing it well, building it properly, and most importantly, the keyword being they're building. And that's what we like to see. Anyway, that was it for our little crypto update here of all the most important news. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it, even though it was a little bit more chaotic than the way I usually like to do it. Here's one little other article I had. XRP looks desperate as asset. Here's what can change situation. It's just funny, all this negativity. I see it in the comment section as well. The amount of hatred I see on XRP is insane, but I'm holding through. I don't really care what anybody says. I got my good bag. I'm buying a lot of it still. It's a good risk to reward, and that's about it, you know. Literally, I should actually get back to it. Literally, think about it. Let's say the probability of winning is 50-50, which it could be. Let's say I have a $100 bill. Would I rather invest it or not? You know, think about that for a second. Let's say the probability of winning this case is 50-50, which is low, because I think it's way higher. But let's say it's just half. What is the potential for gains? Well, I think all of us can say, yeah, if it wins, we're probably going to 10x our money relatively quickly. And we can all say, if we lose, we're probably going to lose out on at least half. But let's just say, for ease of calculation here, all our money. Let's just say our money goes all to zero. All my money goes to zero. That means we have a 50% chance of 10xing our investment. AKA, if we put $100 in, we come out with $1,000. However, there's also a 50% chance that if we put in $100, we come out with $0. I'm not your financial advisor, just doing simple math here. Now, because of this little risk reward, or I guess risk reward literally, the expected value here, following probability, is, well, 50% chance of 100, 50% chance of, 50% chance of 1,000, 50% chance of 0, 500. AKA, if we put money in this consistently, this machine, this is only once, so it makes it a little bit more difficult. But if we keep putting money into this machine, eventually we'll make a crazy amount of money. So every single time I have a $100 bill, I look at the situation and think, okay, this $100 bill, by trying it, is basically giving me $500 if I keep doing this over and over again. Because, well, you might lose a couple times, but overall, you're going to win half the time. You're going to keep getting 1,000. So you should keep trying this out. The point being here, with all my calculations I've done, XRP is just a good bet. Most of my friends agree with me here. Most investors I know, they agree. Obviously, there's safer cryptocurrencies out there. I'd say a lot of other cryptos are just good to hold that will, generally speaking, just continue to climb upwards with less risk. You can never know which one is going to be number 1, 2, or 3, though, because things can change in a matter of weeks. It really can go that quickly. Aptos, for example, could have killed a lot of other projects if it had the proper launch, if FTX didn't go down. And it's going to be like that for a lot of projects being developed later. For example, if Apple all of a sudden decides to make a new company fully focused on crypto, that could obviously take over, etc., etc., etc. Just a lot of things can change. You should keep that in the back of your head as things can move quickly. But that's about it. See you guys again in another crypto video later.